How to start. Kaizen starts with a problem, or more precisely, with the recognition that a problem exists. Mr. Masaki am I. The beauty of Kaizen is that once you have grasped the method, you can apply it to pretty much any part of your life. It is a flexible and personalized approach to change, so everybody will have their own experience. To help you along the way, I have included chapters on some of the most important areas of life and the habits that people often feel they want to change. Within these chapters, I have also explored other popular Japanese concepts that can be used to transform your habits or reframe the way that you think about your life. Each of these chapters also includes tips and exercises for very small steps to help you kickstart your Kaizen practices. The chosen topics are by no means exhaustive, however, so do feel free to apply the method to another part of your life which you would like to transform. If you are struggling to keep going with your goals, skip to a chapter called Stumbling Blocks, pages 256-263, with tips to help you return to your Kaizen practice. The idea behind Kaizen is to make changes so incrementally that it is actually difficult to give up entirely. Its continuous nature also means that there is no specific end point, and you are encouraged to keep finding new challenges. But life can throw curveballs and make it difficult to sustain good habits at times, so do be gentle on yourself if things don't always go quite to plan. The method. Now it is time to actually bring in the method and put together a plan. The emphasis in Kaizen is always on doing things in small stages and treating the idea of change as an ongoing process rather than a quick fix to-do list. The method will show you how to interrogate your existing habits, think about long-term goals, and then formulate a plan to start gradually making small improvements towards those goals. In the process, you will overhaul your mindset and attitude towards change. The most important thing to ensure you stay motivated is that the small changes shouldn't feel too scary or impact upon your existing routine too much. Because each person will have different priorities and things they wish to transform, the method isn't prescriptive or one-size-fits-all. Various Kaizen practitioners work in different ways, and no person's plan is going to look the same. But there are certain questions we can all start with to stimulate your thinking and provoke thoughtful responses. The inventory. Let's start by taking an inventory of your life as it is at this very moment. The idea is to make an honest assessment of your habits and immediate environment to eventually form a life plan of goals and challenges. This probably sounds like a daunting task, so let's adopt a Kaizen attitude and break it down into small steps. Take out a piece of paper and divide it into sections. This can either be in columns or a spider diagram, whichever is more aesthetically pleasing to you. Nobody has to see this, so do whatever feels right for you. If it feels too daunting to try to tackle every part of your life at once, just choose one or two things to concentrate on at a time. Each person will have different priorities, and you can populate this inventory with anything you like, but here are some ideas. Health. What is your relationship with your body, your mental health, diet, exercise routine or lack of, sleep patterns? Which areas are you happy with and where is there room for improvement? Working life, career. Are you happy in your job? Are you looking for work or a career change? Do you feel fulfilled in your working life? How do you get on with your colleagues? A key thing to address here might be work-life balance. If you are working towards a qualification, are you happy with the way that you study? Do you maximize your time effectively? Or are you currently stuck in a boring job and contemplating going back to study? Money. Do an honest assessment of your attitude towards money and your current financial status. Do you have debt that you wish you could clear? Or is there something that you would like to save up for? Do you find that you have an emotional attitude to spending, or are you fully in control? Home. How do you feel about your immediate environment and the people in it? Are you happy, or are there things you would like to change? Relationships. How do you feel about your partner, your friends and members of your family? What are the relationships that boost you? Are there any relationships that drain you or ones that could be improved? New challenges. What new challenges could you set yourself? Have you always wanted to learn a language or an instrument, master a certain cuisine or try a new sport? Try to think of a few positive goals that you could work towards. This is a lot to take in, so at first try taking just one or two areas and brainstorming those. You can come to the others later. There will probably be some areas which immediately spring to mind in terms of where you would like to see change. You could be struggling to stay on a diet, or you could feel stuck in a job that you hate but feel too overwhelmed to look for another one. Although the big things that leap out will be your priority, Do not neglect small things in the same area that could also be important and are potentially the quick wins to improving your life. As well as including the existing areas of your life that you want to change, think about potential new challenges too. Rather than only listing things you are currently unhappy about, try to include some new and exciting possibilities as well. It will be more motivating and less miserable. If your inventory includes a mixture of old behaviors that you wish to change and new activities you might want to try. Things you want to change. Let's focus on your existing habits first. Now is the time to look at your inventory and really interrogate yourself. Take out a new piece of paper, and for each area be brutally honest and question whether you are happy and doing the most to achieve what you want. For the areas you want to change, think about what could be done to improve your situation. Here are some questions to help. How am I successful in this area? How could I do better, or how am I ineffectual? What would it look like if I had a much improved situation? What are some very small short-term steps I can take to get started towards this much improved situation? What would long-term success look like? Take your time over these questions, as the answers to them might not be immediately obvious. Perhaps take a different area each day and put together your answers over the course of a week. Your subconscious brain loves working on questions in the background, and you might suddenly find that an answer comes to you when you're in the shower or queuing for a sandwich at lunchtime. For example, home, living in a house share. How am I successful in this area? I have found housemates whom I like, when they aren't leaving the toilet seat up, failing to empty the dishwasher, having impromptu house parties on Monday nights. How could I do better? I could be more honest with my housemates about my grievances with living in a shared house, rather than stew about them in private in my room. What would it look like if I had a much improved situation? I would love to come home to a stress-free environment. What are some very small short-term steps I can take to get started towards this much improved situation? I could talk to one of my housemates about how I feel. What would long-term success look like? A more harmonious living situation. It is illuminating to spend time tracking existing habits to see where you might be able to improve. For example, keeping a food exercise diary over a week or interrogating where you spend time at work. I have included tips about keeping a journal on page 55, and there are various apps that can assist with this too, depending on the habit. If you can identify an area that you want to improve, but find it difficult to pinpoint actions that might help, the following chapters contain ideas for steps you can take in each area of your life. Note, there may be existing areas of your life that you wish you could change, but aren't able to because of circumstances that are out of your control. It could be that you are a carer for a family member, suffering from an illness, or unable to change your job because of your location. If this is the case, try to concentrate on other things you can do to improve your quality of life, or set yourself some new positive goals that you can work towards. I have tried to include as many small and inexpensive tips as possible for when it feels hard to make progress. From the answers that you have given to the questions opposite, you will find that you have a goal, or several goals, and a list of actions. They should be very small actions that you can take in the short term to work towards more long-term happiness and success. If you have a set idea of a goal you want to work towards, try writing it down and keeping it somewhere where you can see it regularly, such as in your purse, on your computer screen, or on a sticky note attached to your mirror. Examples. I want to learn how to drive. I want to reduce the balance on my credit card. I would like to reconnect with an old school friend. If you're still unsure about your short, medium, and long-term goals, there are lots of tips in the following sections, so don't worry. You don't have to have your whole life planned out right away, but do keep these goals in the back of your mind when progressing through the book. New challenges and hobbies. For any new challenges that you wish to take on, the first step is to do a brainstorm of what these could be. Is there a hobby you used to do at school that fell by the wayside when life got in the way? Is there a country you have always dreamed of visiting that you want to save up to go to? And would you like to know some of the language before you go? Or is there a physical or mental challenge you have always fancied trying? There are probably a few things that spring to mind straight away, but if you are struggling to think of anything, then canvas friends and the internet for inspiration. Check out local Facebook groups to see if there is an activity that you can try close to home, Or if you want to try something a bit more unusual, then consult the many websites and online forums that provide advice on nearly every activity you can think of. There are also plenty of tips in the Habits and Challenges chapter. See pages 226-255. Once you have decided what this challenge could be, again ask yourself some small questions about how you can get started. What will the challenge involve? Why do I want to do it? What is a very small thing I can do to get started? What would long-term success look like? For example, what will the challenge involve? I want to run a 10K. Why do I want to do it? For the physical and mental challenge, what is a very small thing I can do to get started? Download a running app to my phone and try out a first run. What would long-term success look like? Completing the challenge and raising lots of money for charity. Having both short-term and long-term goals in mind will keep you focused on why you want to embark on such a challenge, and breaking them down into chunks will seem less overwhelming. Using one of these new challenges to distract you from an old, unwanted habit is a brilliant way to channel your mindset into something positive. For example, every time you go to scroll through Twitter, spend a minute on your language learning app instead. Next, STEPS. Once you have mapped out the various areas of your life on which you wish to concentrate, it is time to prioritize. Ask yourself whether there are any quick wins that can be sorted out fairly easily, and rather than overwhelm yourself at the start, perhaps choose just one area to focus on, although it is worth looking at all of your answers as a whole to see if there are any overlaps or things that could be worked on in unison. For example, I want to move about more, and I want to learn Beyoncé's dance routine to single ladies, could be combined as one goal. Once you have chosen your first area of focus, now is the time to write down the smallest thing you can do to work towards that goal. Remember the 1% rule. It should be something that will barely impact your routine and be a tiny incremental step towards your goal. For example, goal: learning Beyoncé's single ladies dance routine in time for my friend's hen do. First small step: watch the music video and then draw up a plan of which sections you are going to learn. Rather than trying to learn the whole routine in one go, all you need to do is allocate 5 minutes of your day, whether that is setting your morning alarm 5 minutes earlier, devoting 5 minutes to it when you return from work or before you go to bed, and build up from there. What is your time frame? Think about when you would like to complete your goal. This will vary depending on what you are trying to achieve. Aiming to learn a musical instrument is going to take longer than reading Ulysses, in theory at least. Your goal might not have a finite ending, especially if it is a new hobby. The key is to make sure that you have a measurable time frame so that you can track progress. For example, I want to take up yoga, so I'll go to one class every fortnight. You might find that it is occupying all of your energy and making you feel exhausted. If that is the case, then perhaps make the step you are working towards even smaller. For example, if you are failing to write 200 words each day, then reduce it to just 100. This might not seem like very much, but finishing the week having written 700 words is better than staring at a screen while losing all motivation. You should find that once you have started to incorporate one small new step into your routine, and things start to develop, then you will have more energy to tackle other things too. You can now either ramp up the step you are already working on or bring in an entirely new step. Holding yourself accountable. Now that you have an idea of what you want to achieve and the first small measurable step you can do towards it, it is time to find a way to make yourself accountable. Different people will respond to different ways, but some ideas are: use a bullet journal. Bullet journals may sound complicated, but they are really easy to put together and a great way to track your progress. There is a full guide to how to produce one on page 55. Following bullet journal on social media will also provide much inspiration for how to create one. A good old-fashioned wall chart. Did you used to have a chart at home where your parents rewarded you for good behavior or eating your greens? Or did your teacher use one to reward pupils who had been helpful in class? Make one for yourself and display it in pride of place at home. Buy colorful paper and stickers to make it look even fancier. Tell a friend. Informing somebody else of your goal and letting them help hold you to account is a good way of spurring you on. I asked my friend to check in on my word count while I was writing this book, and it really motivated me, and I only lied a few times. Online trackers and apps. Technology can sometimes be a very good thing, especially when it comes to analyzing your habits or tracking your goals. Explore the many different options out there for apps that can offer encouragement and help you to keep track of your progress. Reward yourself. As well as tracking your achievements, a good way to feel motivated is to reward yourself when you make progress. Reaching some of your goals will feel rewarding enough, especially if you are getting a boost in mood from better sleep or doing more exercise, but some habits may feel harder to change, and your rewards can be small, such as a new notebook or a plant for your bedroom. This can spur you on and encourage you to try to conquer even more challenges. Another idea of a way to treat yourself could be with fun cultural or social activities. For example, after finally running 5K without stopping, why don't you arrange a celebratory karaoke night or night out with your friends? Involving others in your rewards will mean that your friends can both motivate you and hold you to account if you don't stick to your goals. Journaling. The very first part of the Kaizen method is about taking stock and interrogating your existing habitual behaviors. Lots of books encourage readers to keep a journal to do this, but don't explain how. Bullet journaling is a technique of creating and designing your own type of journal, and unlike the strict layout of a diary, and the guilt that you feel when you inevitably miss filling in an entry, you are in control of the blank spaces and can use it as much or as little as you want to. It isn't something that you necessarily have to engage with every day. You can mold your journal to be the perfect tool to track both your habits and your Kaizen goals. I now use a journal every day to track my habits and to make plans for future Kaizen challenges. Being able to look back over previous weeks and months to see how my behaviors have changed or how a new habit has become second nature is really illuminating and motivating. It also brings into focus things that I am struggling to change and need to work on. If you aren't a journaling type, I have included lots of other tips for ways to track your habits, such as the distance that you have walked or the quality of your sleep. See what works for you. The important thing is that you track your habits. The means of getting there doesn't matter. How to start a Kaizen journal. I recommend setting this up yourself in a notebook so that you can tailor it to what you want and need. It honestly only takes a small amount of time, and you only need a few basics to get started. Use the following sections initially, then you can expand it further. Key sections could be monthly calendar. I find it useful to divide my journal into months and just set up 1 month at a time. This means that you can adapt the next month according to what you used and found helpful in the previous month. To make a monthly calendar, write the name of the month at the top. You can make it look fancy if you wish. Then list the dates of that month in a column down the far left-hand side of the page. Fill in any important events that month. Monthly goals. Adjacent to the calendar page, write a list of bullet points for things that you want to achieve that month. These can be anything from spending targets. I don't want to go into my overdraft. Health goals. I intend to go to 4 Pilates classes this month. Creative challenges. I will learn the E minor scale on the piano, or work targets. I will organize a charity bake sale, or I won't stab Carlo in the head with a barrow when he is rude to me. Habit tracker. This is the section that I use to track a few habits: sleep, exercise, eating habits, spending, etc. The layout for this will depend on what it is that you are tracking, but if it is something that I wish to track on a daily basis, then I will turn the page horizontally and write the days of the month along the top, leaving a 5 cm column blank on the left. I then write whatever goal or habit I have in the blank column. If I have achieved the habit on that day, then I will color in the corresponding space or fill it in with a number if more relevant. Gratitude list. Next to my habit tracker, I like to include a gratitude list that I fill in each day. More on this in the relationships chapter. See page 212. Daily or weekly to-do list. I don't always use my journal every single day, so don't worry if you aren't keeping up with it. But when I am using it as a daily to-do list, I write the day date and then make a list of bullets underneath of things that I wish to achieve. Try to include a few items rather than a huge list that you will never get through. When you come to the next day, look over your previous day's list, draw a forward arrow over the bullet key below, and move anything you didn't achieve into your new day. If the task is no longer relevant, then ignore it. Cross out things you've achieved and feel very smug. Bullet key. To do. Completed. An activity to be moved to the next day, month. When you reach the end of the month, take a look back and see all that you have achieved and what you would like to change for the next month. Amend the sections and habit trackers as appropriate, then set up a new monthly calendar, monthly goals and to-do lists to kick off in a forward direction.